Hi, I'm David Bodemer, Editorial Director with National Real Estate Investor. We're here at the ICSC Recon 2012 show. I'm here with Glenn Rufrano, the CEO of Cushman Wakefield. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
So you were telling me that you're ICSC past trustee and that there was a meeting yesterday where some global trends were being discussed. And you want to kind of let us in on that a little bit?
Sure. You know, we meet at Sundays before the actual event, the convention event, and there are about 100 trustees that talk about events and trends around the retail world, retailers and owners. So it's people who are in the business, doing business together with each other, telling each other the truth. You know, what is really going on in the world, and how do we continue to coordinate? Some interesting parts of the conversation. You know, clearly, retailers are still looking for the A product, you know, the A malls, the A shopping centers. See rents increasing in those properties, and there's a question of how rents are increasing, how far they'll increase. From an owner's standpoint, the owners like the increases, say they need the increases, especially if new product is to be created for retailers so that you can amortize the cost of new product. So those are good conversations, healthy conversations that went on, but they were optimistic conversations because they're conversations about retailers who want to expand, who are doing business, and owners who have capital to help them expand. So it was very productive and thoughtful.
And we're talking about expansion both within the United States but also just more globally, right?
The expansion we were talking about yesterday was within the United States relative to those conversations, but the global expansion was also a topic, and is a very big topic, and that expansion is primarily for brand tenants in the United States, Gap, J. Crew, you know, companies like that who are known worldwide, who are thinking about moving outside of their more mature market in the United States into other markets, and that was a long conversation. It was a conversation not only there, but as part of a paper that Cushman Wakefield has published for the convention.
Right. So this paper just came out. It's a global perspective on retail. So what are some of the key findings within this piece?
Well, I'm happy to say some of the key findings were relate to what was said yesterday. So when you start and end with a retailer, they need to expand. They want expanding sales. If you're a retailer today and you're a brand and you're looking around the globe, you think about where do you expand outside of the U.S. That's the context of the conversation. And two primary areas evolve. One, emerging markets.
Right.
And the emerging markets are the markets that have high growth, and those are not too easy, not so hard to figure out. Brazil, China, India. And so that's one, those three spots around the globe retailers need to understand. They may or may not be part of that market. They may not go there and have a store, but they need to understand that growth. The second would be more mature markets, but in dense cities, London, New York, Hong Kong. So those are the two ports of entry for many of the brand retailers, and now it's a question of can they afford those mature markets, and can they take the risks in the emerging markets. Both require information to make those decisions. That information is starting to really be out there, more transparency. Those decisions will be made over the next couple of years.
And so when you're looking, I mean, are these sort of one-off opportunities, or is it, or retailers trying to be like, you know, if I'm gonna look at India, do I need to open like a certain number of stores for this to work? I mean, how does that work, and how do you plug it into the existing supply chains they might have?
The answer is going to be it's not one store. Yeah, if they're going to move to a market, they have to have critical mass, and that critical mass may be different for different retailers. It may be 150 stores for Uniqlo, which is a company out of Japan, or it may be 15 stores for Zara, but it's critical mass. And once they decide on that critical mass, and there are companies like Cushman & Wakefield who will work for the retailers to help them decide locations and critical mass, then distribution chains have to be understood. Buying patterns have to be understood. It's not an easy decision. These are hard decisions. They take time, but they're critical decisions because they're growth decisions. If they choose not to make that decision, they've chosen not to go into a growth market. That's why I say the information they need, they'll get. And they'll have an understanding, and then they'll decide whether they want to do it or not.
And what kind of things do they need to understand about markets? I would think it's the buying power, the trends, but also even just like the way the leases may be different, or the laws. I mean, all that stuff must kind of come into the picture.
It's all that stuff. I would agree. It's demographics, buying patterns, understanding. You know, we have a concept here called psychographics, which is matching up the demographics in any given location with the form of merchandise. You can do that in countries outside the US. Information isn't as good, but you can do that. So psychographics are absolutely necessary. Locational analysis is necessary. But once you get the merchandising concept understood, your next point, which is very relevant, is what about the legal structure?
Right.
You know, how does the lease work? And it's different in all countries. What rights do the tenant have versus the landlord? It's different in all countries. What we actually are doing at Cushman Wakefield, we're putting on seminars for tenants. We're having one for Brazil, where we will bring in the psychographic information, and we're having a law firm be part of that seminar who will identify all the information necessary for leases, what kind of rights you have, so we can package it all in one 3 or 4 hour seminar. So at least there's a basic understanding by the retailer.
Get sort of a view of all the, at least the introduction to all the different pieces that we have to consider, and then figure out what the next step is from there.
And it actually goes a little further if you think about northern and southern hemisphere.
Right.
If someone decides they want to be in Australia,
yes,
well, that's fine. It may be a perfectly legitimate market to go to. But remember, the summer is winter, and winter is summer.
Right.
So when you merchandise, when you create, manufacture is also an important part of the equation. So there are a whole realm of issues, all solvable,
right,
but just need to be understood first.
Right, but overall, this is just like this globalization, this need to kind of like be everywhere is a powerful dynamic that we're seeing.
It's happening, and will continue to happen, and it is based on the very simple concept: our retailers need to grow.
And so I guess, how does this show fit in, and how does some other, the kind of conversations out here, how does that push that all forward?
Well, the purpose of ICSC always starts out with education. It always meant to bring both owners and retailers together so that the information they need to do business is there, and the education in the process is there. So we have a number of seminars going on at ICSC, as well as meetings between owners and tenants. It goes further than that. ICSC in September will have a World Summit in Shanghai, which will be the same concept, very educational, especially towards Asian movements. And so at this show and at this convention and in ICSC in general, it is to do everything you're asking. How do the participants know enough to make decisions? And ICSC is dedicated to get that information to them.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy conference to stop by.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having us.
And stay tuned to other videos in our series.